2 weeks ago, I found out that my 5-year-old isn't biologically mine. I felt so hurt and betrayed that my wife, whom I've been with for 9 years, cheated on me and even got pregnant by another man. I took a paternity test without telling my wife and immediately confronted her, calling her a whore in my anger, among many other names. She started crying and explained that she hooked up with someone because she didn't want to break our happy family of 3. I asked her why she cheated on me. She explained that we had a very bad argument back in the day, so she hooked up with someone, and it was just a one-time fling. She claimed to have been loyal to me ever since. She said she had doubts that I wouldn't be the father but never took a paternity test herself. She mentioned that she was happy seeing me happy and didn't go through with an abortion for the peace of our family, choosing not to tell me the truth. I told her I was divorcing her and didn't want to be in our son's life. She started crying and begging me not to break the family, reminding me that I am still his father and that I have been a wonderful father and husband. She pleaded with me to forgive her and not let DNA destroy our lives. I immediately left and she was blowing up my phone. I decided at first not to tell anyone else, but in the end, I got very angry and decided to tell everyone. Everyone is pissed at my wife. Her parents said they want nothing to do with their daughter and cut contact. My sister furiously called my soon-to-be ex and cursed her out, while her brother and sister said I have humiliated my soon-to-be ex and shouldn't have told everyone. We should have kept it between us. He said he's sorry on his sister-in-law's behalf, and we ended the call. Now I am ignoring all my whys and that BCH's calls relevant comments. Legally, he is your son. The fact that you can so easily cut off the child you've raised since birth does not speak well of your character. I feel sorry for the child. He doesn't deserve your vitriol. It's his mother's fault, not mine. Legally, he is my son and I will pay child support, but it's up to me if I want to keep a relationship with him or disown him. If his mother didn't jump on some other man's bed like a cheap whore, this whole thing could have been avoided, and we might have been a happy family. F that bitch. I wonder what she'll tell our son when we divorced. She deserves no sympathy or empathy from anyone. There's no good reason for her to lie and betray and hand me someone else's child. When the time is right, I'll tell my son when we split and why he didn't have a father. Let's see if he still respects his mom. If I didn't do paternity, I would never have known the truth. This kid is not at fault. Hey me, the mother, your ex, but don't involve the kid in it. The child needs to know the truth, not now but someday. Otherwise, he'll just resent me for giving up on him and abandoning him, and I ain't covering up that bitch's mistake. If my wife had made some other mistake, no matter how huge or small it is, I would have supported her undoubtedly. But if she fucks some other guy, then that's a clear indication that she's no longer my wife, just a guy who gives her money. And I am glad I did paternity. Otherwise, she would have handed me some other man's kid again, and I would probably not have any of my own kids. Update. I was absolutely shocked to see 10K comments on my post and DMS when I checked my post again yesterday. I am thankful for everyone. I couldn't go through all the comments, but I took my time to read many. Those who were asking if I am okay. I'm not, but I will live. Also, why are some people calling me a misogynist? Then I deserve to get cheated on. If your husband comes to you and claims to have a child outside of your marriage, would you not crucify him? It's not about gender at all. I decided to do the paternity test because my sister asked me to. She asked me multiple times, but I brushed it off. I never ever thought of my wife to cheat on me, let alone getting pregnant by another man. My sister is my best friend and has always looked out for me. She said I should do the paternity test because my son doesn't look like me at all. I said he looks like his mom, but she forced me and I am glad she did. She was so heartbroken seeing me cry on her and angry at my wife. I must have hugged her for hours and cried because I truly loved my son, but he reminded me of my wife's cheating and made my pain worse. Anyway, after reading comments about how my son is a victim just like me and all this, I decided to not cut him off completely right away because it might mentally scar him. I called my wife and she picked my call right away. I said I am coming over to meet my son. She cried and said she's glad I am coming over. I asked her if the bitch is still with her. She said she is. I asked her to tell her not to talk to me, otherwise I'll punch her filthy mouth. She said the bitch will not interact with me. When my son saw me, he was very happy. He instantly hugged me and asked me where I was for so long. I picked him up and said I was working. I played with him for an hour and gently explained to him that I will be away frequently but will visit you and be in contact. He didn't like the news, so to cheer him up, I said I will prepare a very good surprise for his birthday. Not sure what I am going to do, but I'll figure it out. It's in December, so I'll figure something out. Anyway, after he went outside to play, I talked to my wife. My wife instantly latched on to me, hugged me, and started crying. She asked me to come back to her and not to give up on our son and on her over a mistake. She wanted to abort, but she didn't because I was happy, and she's been loyal to me since then. I got even more angry and grabbed her arm, yelling at her that she destroyed me and our son. When he finds out the truth, he won't love you as much as he loves you now. I came in you every single night. Where did it all go? But a random man comes in you once, and you got pregnant. We both know I am not infertile. I told her I wanted to tell every single person we know the truth, your friends' friends, the whole effing neighborhood, and every single one of her family members, even if they live in effing China, even to those you haven't talked to in years, and every single one of your future partners. She started crying and shaking. I told her I won't. I wanted to exact my vengeance upon her. But if I do this, it will hurt the innocent child and ruin him. I said, do not misunderstand. I am doing it for him, not for you. She said, I am the love of her life, and she can't live without me. She will wait until I calm down, and she will fight for me. She will not let her family break just because of a mistake she made, and she will give me as many kids as I want. She herself will do paternity. She started kissing me on the face desperately. I pushed her and said, you are delusional. You're acting as if you have ruined my car or something. I would have forgiven you for anything else. But this is a betrayal to your husband and your own child. I yelled at that filthy bitch of a sister to get her professional help. She's going crazy. Before she could say anything, I left, because I want her to be as mad as she can possibly get. After I came back, I sent a text to my wife that I will be visiting her for my son frequently, but I am only thinking about him and nothing else. Don't make it all worse than it already is. Think about him and be a good mother. I am now living with my sister, and she has given me full support and hugs me until I calm down, even if it takes me hours. I will start divorce proceedings, and I am his father, so it's unlikely I will escape CS. Even if I do, I have a moral obligation to be in his life. F the WH3 and BCH. Both sisters are sassy, maybe it runs in their blood. Some comments NGL referring to the CIS as BCH seems really funny to me. On a serious note, I'm glad to see you aren't sitting alone and hopeless. Movement is better than being stagnant. An empty mind is the home of evil. Also, I'm glad to hear about your son's situation, that he won't get outright abandoned. Good luck to you. Her sister is a BC of the highest order. She called me names worse than this. I hope her husband divorces her for her foul mouth, full of S, or at least takes paternity. My son, even though he's not mine, I decided not to abandon him. It's painful for me, but it will be 100x worse for him. His flesh and blood isn't mine, but I hope he never finds out the truth and lives his life in blissful ignorance. It all depends on my wife, though. She has to think about her child more. He's my beat hard, and even I feel like puking when I think of it. So, I will treat him as my son and call him my son. What is so weird about crying to a sibling? Huh? Why is it always about gender? I would hug and cry to my brother, my mom, my dad, HL, even my grandma. I am particularly close to my sister because she always cared about me, and she's the reason I found out that my child isn't mine. I might have never known about it and spent my whole life trusting my wife blindly, while she made me take care of someone else's kids. You are the weird one for thinking that a sibling's bond is weird, I guess, so every effing thing is weird here. HL, if I had said that it's not my sister but my brother, you'd say I am gay, right? Right, you lost. OP, you let soften you for the kid's sake. Now you're W3. Your wife will have complete access to you and will do whatever it takes to get you back. She and her flying monkeys will go on you like vultures until you cave. You have to be in the kid's life but not with her there. You will be screwed again, mark my words. Another cheating hoe. One, and that's unfortunate. Well done, and for your own sake, record every iteration you have with the kid and her. Once she realizes you are not budging, she will accuse you of something, from abuse to kidnapping to whatever, sooner or later. The courts are gonna go for your son, and you just allowed it. In fact, it made me understand that even if you get betrayed and get lied to in the worst way possible, I'll be called names for the way I reacted. I decided on my own accord to help the young boy who was so darn happy to see me. Me, which almost made me cry, but I didn't because of the bitch, where I will help him, and I have plans for my wife and whoever the guy is who got my wife pregnant. Even if it takes years, I will make her spill it all and ruin his life like he ruined mine. For her, it's just a mistake. For you, it's years of lying for her. It's truly a mistake when I confronted her. She blamed it all on DNA and said she didn't want DNA to break her family, while it is clear she is the one who broke our family up. If she had said she wanted to abort, I wouldn't have been as hurt as I am. Like, why would you cheat? We had sex daily. I came in her all the time, and my own son isn't mine. If I do forgive her and we live as a happy family, like we used to, would she not cheat on me again? Awaiting responses about, I am infertile or, I am not man enough. Like in my previous posts, I want them triggered. My son thinks of me as his father, and I will spare my son of a lifetime of grief and trauma. Whatever comes next in the future, I will deal with it. He needs to know that family history is very medically relevant and informs doctor recommendations. For example, if there's a family history of cancer, he may have to start screening at an earlier age. If there's a genetic condition that he's a carrier of, that's something that will impact his choices on whether he wants children in the future or steps he can take to ensure the condition isn't passed on. Conversely, your family history could cause unnecessary screenings and stress because it's actually not medically relevant to him. I agree, and it's my wife's responsibility to tell our son the truth about who his real father is. I know he isn't mine, but he thinks he is, and I am in his life for his sake. I don't even know who impregnated my wife. If she tells me, I will be able to help him medically, but I don't. My wife is living in her la-la land, somehow thinking I will come back to her and we'll all live together, and she doesn't even care about her own son. I am wondering how the hell she got pregnant by a random man. Was it her ex, a family member, like someone commented about me having a weird relationship with my own effing sister? I really don't know, but he's about to be 6, and it's not in me to tell him the truth. My wife has to get over everything she's suffering with and think of her son. I am still thinking of her as my wife, and calling her that is generous enough. Other men would leave and not think about them both, and other women would leave the moment they find out their husband cheated on them, forget about knowing or showing up with a child suddenly. I am a mess. My wife is a mess, and I want my son to be okay and not be a mess like we are. Update. It's been a month since I found out that my son isn't mine. I sought therapy. I love my son, even though he isn't mine biologically, but I love him. I always did and always will. In my anger, I called names to my wife which I didn't want to, but she betrayed me. In my opinion, she definitely deserved it because she called me weak and treated me like a stranger after I found out the truth. I realized that it's better if I just make peace with everyone and be in my kid's life. After a lot of sessions, I don't know why I'm getting angry messages about how I went too far and my situation is fake. Well, I agree, I was angry because it's a betrayal worse than just cheating. In any case, I am posting once again because I truly tried my best. I discussed with my sister-in-law. Thankfully, she wasn't hostile. We apologized to each other and we still don't like each other, but it's okay. I visit my home every few days. My sister-in-law, my wife, and my son live in my house. I am tolerating all this because of my child, and I just want a clean divorce from my wife and want to be in my child's life because I am the only father he has known, though young. I don't know how to tell him the truth. Every time I visited my home to spend time with my son, my wife would always hug me. I stopped pushing her away because it never worked. I just let her hug me and let her vent. She keeps venting about how sorry she is and wants me back, but I always told her that I am here for my son. She cries but doesn't say much in front of our son, thankfully. But 3 days ago, when I visited my son to spend time with him, I absolutely adore him. He always gets excited whenever I come back to meet him. I told my wife that I have hired a lawyer in my son's absence, of course. My wife freaked out and said I shouldn't split our family apart. She said my son might not have my DNA, but he's my son, and she's my wife, and we can make it work and live happily. She'll give me as many children as I want. I left after she vented. I am still angry at my wife and my son, but I am in control of my anger. Her family kept calling me and telling me that I should give my wife another chance and be a good husband. They said she will be a good wife to me, but when I refused, they said there's a chance I won't be able to see my son, which got me scared. I love my son, even though he isn't mine, and he loves me as his father. But what if I am not allowed to see him? What if they flip the situation? That's what I am worried about. It's not about me, but the child's mental health, and I fear that they are weaponizing it. I don't want that. Am I the idiot to myself if I stay with my wife for my son and help him? Relevant comment. They're people for using your son as a hostage to blackmail you into keeping their cheating daughter as your wife. You need to keep those texts and send them to your lawyer. Show them as proof that your wife is not fit to parent a child if she can use the child to blackmail you to get what she wants. My issue right now is not getting back to my wife or my son or her family. I want to avoid fighting with them. I want to make them realize that we can't just all fight between each other, not for us, but for our son, their grandchild. I am still angry, but I decided to be peaceful and get along with them after my session. And I hate every one of them except my wife. I love her, but I hate her for her betrayal. I am going above and beyond for my son. That's all. My anger aside, my son doesn't deserve so much pain. He's so darn young, just 5. I want a clean divorce and co-parenting, but my wife and her family are making it so hard for us all. What kind of mother is she? She doesn't care about her son and just wants me back. Even if I decided to be with her, our son would one day realize that his father is actually his father, and his parents hate each other. If he wasn't so young, I would have told him the truth myself. But there's no winning here unless my wife agrees. I do not want conflict, but I also think it's unavoidable. I don't really know how to help my son. Story 2. I have been working on a novel for about a year. I write every day, even if it's just a sentence. 6 months ago, my college switched to smartboards and put all their whiteboards in the garbage. I grabbed some because I have a huge wall space open in my living room. Most of my writing is done on my Google Drive, but I have things like character personalities, names, places, and a general timeline. You know, stuff I want to remember. I used to take photos of it so I had my ideas with me. I used to write on my lunch break, but I stopped doing that because I burned myself out and my writing quality took a huge dive. Plus, my boyfriend helps me write, and it helps us connect in such a deep way. So, I haven't taken a photo in about 3 months. The whiteboards are nice because I can read my notes across the room while I'm sitting in my favorite chair. I got home last night and all of my stuff was erased. It was all train of thought. I'd come home and jot something down. Handwriting is way more cathartic for me. I had sketches of things in the novel, and I'd basically have to go through and remember every single thing on it. I have a lot of it stored in my head or on my Google Drive, but there are some things I'll never get back. But it's the fact that he erased it. We don't live together. He told me I've been focusing too much on it and have no time for him. We hang out at my house 5 or 6 nights a week. I write while he plays video games. It's a good dynamic and I thought we enjoyed it. We are always laughing and he helps me with my wording, and I Google stuff to help him in his game. This is the first time he's mentioned it bothering him. If he had brought it up, we could have talked about it, but he went nuclear and I have no idea why. I don't know what to do. I'm so frustrated. We have had one serious argument over his driving, and he got better. My family took him on vacation a few weeks ago. We watch his nephew all the time, and his family paid for my entire spring semester. We are so much a part of each other's lives, and I feel so hurt and heartbroken. He's my muse, and just the other day we went to the jewelry store to look at rings. My feelings rotate between rage, sadness, confusion, sorrow, and anger. How do I even approach this? Last night, I was so sad I asked him to leave. He hasn't texted, hasn't called, and hasn't stopped by. I keep typing in questions to ask, but I keep erasing them. Why did you do it? Are you unhappy with our relationship? What did I do? I'm even more heartbroken due to the fact he hasn't called or texted all day. I'm afraid to call him. I don't want to hear him say he thinks we should break up, or he doesn't want to be with me when I'm writing, or just ignore my call. TLDR. My boyfriend erased the whiteboard I use for my novel writing, and he hasn't contacted me at all since it happened. I'm totally lost, heartbroken, and angry. How do I possibly handle this? Relevant comments. Holy crap, as a fellow writer, I'd be livid if I were you. This is the first time he's mentioned it bothering him, and if this is true and he jumps straight to sabotage, this is effed up. It's messed up, regardless, because I'm sure your boyfriend knows how important this work is to you. For him not to try to talk to you about this after 3 years is mind-boggling. Who does this? Text him the dreaded "we need to talk" message. Ask him when he's available, and have him come over to use his words like a goddamn adult. Also, take his key away or change your locks if you don't want to be that upfront about it. He lost his privileges, TBH. Though, in all sincerity, I don't know if this is something I could move past. Comes off as so cruel. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he chose to go into your home when you weren't there because he knew he was doing something wrong. He either knows he effed up, or he feels as though he's in the right, and that's why he hasn't reached out to you. I'm shocked and appalled on your behalf. OP, this was an unbelievably effed up way to deal with those feelings. I hate your boyfriend right now. Remember in Little Women, when Amy burned Joe's book because Joe wouldn't let her come to the theater with her? That was pretty messed up, but ultimately, Amy was a child and she would grow up and be better. Your boyfriend can't do better than the most hated March sister. He's showing you that when he doesn't get his way, he will punish you and destroy the things you care about. This isn't an isolated incident. It's an important piece of information about his character. If he comes back with a massive apology and a plan for how he's going to deal with his feelings in the future, in a non-destructive way, then maybe I'd say it's worth a conversation about continuing this relationship. I actually haven't read Little Women, but I ordered it for my Kindle. It's just so out of the blue. Part of me wonders if there's something going on with him beyond what he said. I don't know. This is really effed up. As another fellow writer, I honestly would have broken down. That's so much work just down the drain, just because you wanted to get your work completed. It's ridiculous, honestly. If it were me, I'd have to fist fight the guy after I've stopped crying over destroyed work. Throwing with what 4B3 had said, definitely take his key away. There's no doghouse, or you can get this back when you earn it back about it. I've personally been in this situation where I've had my old Nala notebooks used in a grill fire, and with truth, I've never accepted the apologies. The person isn't even a friend to me anymore. Not saying you should dump him or break ties with him in general, oh not at all. However, I do say there should be a conversation about the relationship. SH in here somewhere, if he can't handle you being immersed in something you've put years into, something you love, he's not ready to date any type of creator, to be quite honest. It's scary that he honestly thought that destroying anything that looked remotely important was the best thing to do in the situation. But when you regain yourself, try and retrace your steps. Now that he's hiding from you, try and rebalance your world. Building some new things might even come out of it. Keep your head up, friend, and hopefully you can pull back some information and crawl back from there. It'll be difficult, but you can do it. He stood there and he seemed so, I don't know, proud, happy, vindicated. I've had my jaw drop once before in my entire life. To the ventriloquist girl who was on America's Got Talent. Law. I didn't know it was an actually feeling of shock. Awe. It did last night, right before I blanked out and woke up face down on my bed, asking him to leave. Holy cuss, you guys, I am absolutely overwhelmed. I'm not even sure what to say. I asked a girlfriend if I could come over and talk, so we are getting some wine and a pizza. Update. It's been about 3 months since I made my post. This somehow seems like it got really long. The night I made my post, I went to a friend's house, and she ordered a pizza. We got ice cream and a bottle of wine. She's a straight shooter, takes a neutral approach, and she gives solid relationship advice, so I felt comfortable talking to her about everything. She couldn't figure out why he'd done it. We went over how he and I hung out, how much he seemed to care about me, how we looked into each other's eyes, but it also revealed a lot of hesitation on my part. I'm a positive person and tend to forgive faults or overlook them. I suspect it's some sort of coping method from my childhood. We had some unresolved issues. I think he was holding them in, but when I'd bring them up, he'd just get kind of salty and go, "It's fine. I don't care anymore." But he'd bring them up in arguments. I didn't realize how toxic that was. That same night, I told him I was coming over the next day to talk about things. I told him I'd be over around 11 o'clock, and the only thing he texted me was, "Okay," which I didn't respond to. I went over to his house at 11 o'clock, and he was still asleep. He got upset when I woke him up. Took the wind out of my sails on a good day. I cry if something upsets me, but I was so angry and heartbroken I couldn't even think. I left without saying a word to him. He didn't follow me on my way out. I went to the kitchen and took my house key from his key ring. I drove home, packed all his things in a box, put them on my porch, and texted him to come get them. He said, "What the hell? That's fine. I'll come by later and pick them up." I went out with a few girlfriends, we got drunk and had some amazing food. It made me feel better, but when I got home and his things were gone, I was heartbroken. I never texted him, he never texted me. I got absolutely no closure. And even though people say closure is BS, I've had the hardest time moving on. It's been 3 months, and I still cry in the shower sometimes. Even though I broke up with him, I still feel so confused and heartbroken. I never figured out why he did what he did, and I likely never will. I miss his help and companionship. I'd love to come here and say I finished my book, but I haven't written much since I can't get into my characters' heads anymore. There's a feeling of loneliness and grief, and that sort of helped me create a better outline. But I can't write about my characters. The other day, I went to the bookstore to study. I ended up looking at books related to time travel and found one that has thousands of positive reviews. My novel is science fiction, and I've been trying to think of how to incorporate time travel, so it kind of lined up perfectly. It turns out a lot of my ideas mirror theoretical physics. Suddenly, string theory makes sense, cosmology makes sense. I'm blown away, and it makes me feel so weird that so much of my plot has been studied so in depth. The book has lit a fire under me. Reading more about everything makes me so excited, and it's helped me really flesh out my plot. I can't put it down and read 20 or so pages a night. I haven't actually made time to sit and read a book for years. I always have a notebook with me now, so I write my ideas down. I haven't written about my characters yet, but my passion is back, and my plot is making more sense now. I don't care much about how we broke up. I'm not confused. I sometimes get sad at night or during the day, or if I go out and make prolonged eye contact with a guy I haven't thought about dating, and I'm still too hurt to pursue it. But every day I move on a little bit more. I wanted to thank everyone who gave me advice. I forgot about my post until just now, and when I went back through it, I read it and it made me realize how seriously messed up it was, and it gave me closure.